I'd like to thank the scientists for their presentations. It is amazing to me how much they know. I begged them to stay on the surface. If you're like me, you learned an awful lot tonight, and this is just the surface of their knowledge. So we're so fortunate to be here at this place where there are such people around who study our world in depth. So thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it. I'd also like to thank WARF for supporting this project, because it really does bring a lot of knowledge to all of us, knowledge that we don't always have a lot of access to. What a great thing. Now you'll notice that we have killed the smartboard. We have gone out of the realm of the visual into the realm of the auditory. As Perry tunes up his cello, I just want to say, you can go ahead and tune. I want to say that we are going to have a future presentation. I'm not sure when yet, but we'll let you know if you give us your email addresses, on measurement. And we're going to talk about measurement of various things. For instance, we are told that the sun is 93 million miles away. I don't know who went out there with a yardstick to measure that. Somehow we know. We know these tiny distances that we've been told about. I don't know how we know. I would like to know. Additionally, musicians measure. We measure the distance between notes. We use our ears to do it, and we will have a presentation on playing in tune, playing out of tune, how to listen to pitch in a smart way. So stay tuned for that. Are you all tuned up? Okay. So Perry Karp is going to be my assistant on this talk. I will try to keep it brief so that we can hear him play this wonderful piece of music. As I said, we're out of the realm of the visual now. I'm going to ask you to listen and think. We are a visual species. It gets a lot harder when you take the realm of sight out of the equation. This is an issue in the School of Music that we deal with our students when we're dealing with hearing and not seeing. It becomes very slippery, but I think we can explain things to you in a way that you're going to understand about sequences in music. I want to start by making a parallel with sequences in our speech, in our language. And it turns out that we absolutely love sequences. We use them all the time. You may not have thought about it, but we talk about something that's very common. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry knows it. Now, Tom, Dick, Harry. We have a one-syllable common name, a different one-syllable common name, and a two-syllable name. So we have here the basic germ of the musical sequence, and that is state, restate or develop, and change. Tom, Dick, and Harry. Why do we say Tom, Dick, and Harry and not Tom, Dick, and Fred? Because Tom, Dick, and Fred does not develop the way Tom, Dick, and Harry develops. And music, classical music, is about development. Now, if you want to talk about rock and roll, it's often not about development. It's about a groove that stays put, and that we respond to as well. But here we're talking about things that develop. Here's another one, a game you all played as children, Duck, Duck, Goose. State, repeat, change. And notice that Duck, Duck, Goose is such a great game because when it is played, you don't have Duck, Duck, Goose. You have Duck, Duck, Duck. You know what's coming, right? Duck, 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 Goose. And we go. And that's the sequence that we just love. Our brains love this. Afterwards, you can ask Matt Banks why our brains love this. I don't know. But examples abound. Every man, woman, and child. Man, woman, child. You can see the development there. We have this feeling of things moving somewhere. Now, some rhetoric likes sequences that don't go anywhere, that give a feeling of stability. So, for example, of the people, by the people, for the people. That's how Abraham Lincoln described how our government works. Not a sequence that goes anywhere, because our government is perceived as permanent, as stable. So here we have a sequence that stands still. Still powerful, but a totally different kind of linguistic situation. Another one. You are a parent, which many of you are. Your kid's giving you excuses, and you say, no ifs, ands, or buts. That's a brick wall. 3 one-syllable words, no development, right? We use these kinds of sequences to create environments that resonate with us. So, this kind of rhetoric that is sequential translates very nicely into musical patterns. Musical sequences, we're going to start with some easy ones that you can really hear. By the time we get to the Bach, you'll see that it's quite complicated, but you'll have this glimmer into how music is structured. That's going to give you a much different way of approaching a piece of music and understanding what's happening and appreciating the aesthetic of it and finding it yet more beautiful. So let's think about some simple tunes. I would like to start with a song that all of you know. It is called Happy Birthday. It is a sequential song, and let's break it down for you. So, the song starts, Happy Birthday to You. What happens next? Development. Almost the same thing, but the end of it is a little bit higher. You probably never thought about Happy Birthday in this way, but that's okay. We're breaking down things that you didn't think about and making them 3D, making them HD for you, okay? Now, what happens after Happy Birthday to You? Happy Birthday to You? Happy Birthday. The mold is completely broken. Not only that, who usually sings the birthday song? Children. Happy birthday. When you get a crowd of children singing that octave jump, that is cacophonous. That is just like the bursting through to another kind of a plane. Why is our happy birthday song the song that we all know? Because it develops and then it bursts through, especially in the performance environment where it usually takes place. So, statement, development, and now really eruption, right? Other songs, many of our songs are sequential like this. Frère Jacques, Frère Jacques, Frère Jacques, dormez-vous, dormez-vous, right? So the repetition is higher, and now sonne le matin, something different, something that goes down where the first two went up. So we have a statement, an amplification, now something new. You're going to hear this all over classical music now that you're aware of it. Let's take one more kind of a folk song. This is London Bridge. This is a song that has sequences, but it's a little bit more sophisticated, so we're going to start putting our toe into the water of where Bach just is an absolute master, and you're going to see why people ooh and ah about Bach's music when we get there. So here's our intermediate step, London Bridge. Now, this little piece of that melody becomes our nugget of the sequence. Notice it's just a part of the first phrase. London Bridge is falling down, and you know that this is the sequence in the music is echoed by the sequence in the words, falling down, falling down. Right? So we have a sequence that's nested inside a piece of melody and then kind of comes out of the melody. And we have those three statements. Now we go back to the first. Back to the first, and bang! My Fair Lady, the payoff. It's the payoff in the text, it's the payoff in the music. This is why people know London Bridge, right? This is why the song Mud on My Shoes is not a song that you know. I just made it up. And the song London Bridge is a song that every kid knows because there's a power to these repetitions, to these sequences. I will add that because music is not visual but auditory, we need things in our music, we need phrases that are memorable. Without memory, and I'm sure that Matt Banks could talk about this for hours because we're talking about remembering snippets of musical phrases as they go by. We need memorable phrases because we need to understand how music develops. So here's a memorable phrase. Everybody knows that phrase. This is the first movement of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, and this is an incredibly memorable piece, possibly the most famous piece in the canon of Western music. Why? Because of the way it develops. So can you play number 8 again, please? Little chunk, little motif goes here. It's the same thing, only lower, right? Now what happens? Right? After that, what happens? So notice, we had a statement, then we had statement number 2 that develops. Now we went somewhere. Not only did we go somewhere, but that somewhere became statement 1 of the next sequence. So play 10 and then 11 again, if you would. That's the new one. Go somewhere new. And you know the rest of the piece. And then it goes on and on and on. These sequences are spackled on top of each other so that we get sucked into this progression of the music. There's nothing we can see, but we respond because it's a memorable chunk that develops in a way that we can hold on to, and we love sequences. That's the way our brains are wired. Matt, we'll have to have coffee sometime and you tell me why. So, we're going to go to this Bach cello suite. I would like to show you the music to the first movement. This is a piece in many movements, and I'll tell you what the movements are later, and Perry Karp is going to play all of them. But, oops, I'm on the wrong suite. There are 6 of these. So if you look at this, and it doesn't really matter if you can see it very well, there's a lot of notes. It's a lot of notes. And when you're talking about music for a solo instrument that's not the piano, an instrument that's not playing a lot of chords, we're talking about a path from A to Z that's very complicated. How does a composer give us stepping stones so that we can follow his argument? In the case of this piece, it's through sequences. Now, probably a lot of you have heard of Bach's piece, The Art of the Fugue. The Art of the Fugue is a piece that Bach wrote at the end of his life. It concerns this form, the fugue. And the fugue is like a very complicated round. It doesn't matter to explain it right now. I just want to tell you that Bach wrote this piece because he wanted to show everything that can be done in a fugue. That piece, The Art of the Fugue, which he died before he finished, is like an encyclopedia of fugues. Here's what you can do. You can also do this. You can do it upside down. You can do it backwards. You can do it in 6 voices. You can do it in 4 voices. Everything you can do. This is the way Bach's mind worked. He wanted to explore every single side of what he was doing. And I think that this particular movement, the first movement of this D minor cello suite, is an encyclopedia of sequences. We'd like to break down a couple of them for you so you see how it's put together. I'm going to have to ask you to really listen because, again, once we can't see anything, it gets slippery. So we'll break it down for you in a way that you can hang on to it. Here's the little nugget that starts the movement. Then it becomes this. So more notes, more activity, same upward motion, same rest point at the top. Now, the third time is the one that goes somewhere. Okay, so statement, development, and now burst through to do something new. And Bach not only is writing beautiful music and writing it well and writing a sequence that's meaningful, but he is signaling to us, hey, listen, this is going to be a movement about sequences. I'm starting with a sequence right away, so you need to open your mind to the sequential patterns. So here's the entire short opening segment. You can hear the sequences in context. It almost makes sense, almost like it's a poem right now, almost like it has words. You start to, and when you unpack the sequences, you start following the line of logic that Bach is giving you. Let's take another sequential pattern. Now, this is a longer chunk that Bach turns into a sequence. Here's the chunk. Can you play that again? Because I want them to remember it. Now, sequences can develop in many ways. They can go up, they can go down, they can get longer, they can get shorter. Here's the next statement, down. Here's the next one, it's down and it extends. Okay, so not only does the third iteration of the pattern continue, but it takes us back to home, because remember that the piece started like this, and this third sequence ends, so we're back home, right? So it's almost like our route out to the coffee shop, buy our coffee, it gets colder, and then we go home. We stick it in the microwave, we reheat it. Here's a shorter chunk of sequence that Bach uses as a building block. Now, you remember that we started by talking about patterns of 3 sequences. And by the time in the piece where we get to this chunk of sequential material, we have expectations. And a lot of music is about building up expectations. We've heard a whole bunch of sequences that happen in 3s. And now this one, we have 4 iterations. If you're really tuned into the sequence, when you get to the 4th one, you go, ah, my God, it's another one, I didn't expect that. Because music is largely about expectation and satisfaction, but it's also about expectations foiled. Here's expectations foiled and extended. Second, third, 4th, and you can feel the tension in that as it keeps going. It doesn't stop, and that's amazing, right? Here's another long sequential pattern that's going to be the first part of a descending sequence. And this one's about 3 times as long as what we've been hearing, this pattern. Next, and bang, right? Completely breaks the mold with that huge drop in register, the low note. And of course on the cello, the low notes are beautiful, right? Everybody loves the notes on the low string. Bach delivers this, not only that, but a very surprising note. If you can play it again, that note is really surprising. You can feel the power of how he gets you there. But there's more. It's like the ad for Ginsu knives. But there's more. Not only does he go to this remarkable place, but that low note starts the next pattern. Not only that, our sequence is truncated right here because we start the next pattern. Wait, before you play it. Actually, play it once and then we'll talk. Another descending pattern, 4 of them this time. So we don't know what we're going to get from Bach by this point. The rules change every single time, and that's the excitement of this piece. If you listen to this piece as just a string of notes, you don't get that. But now it's like turning in your black and white TV for HD. So much more information. There's another interesting thing about this sequence, and after I do this, I'm going to let you hear the entire piece. But this sequence operates over what's called a pedal point. And I made my scientists promise to use a minimum of jargon. Pedal point, that's the jargon you get here from music. And what a pedal point is, basically, it comes from organ music. And in organ music, on the organ, there's keyboards, and there's usually a bunch of them, and there's also foot pedals. Thank you. There's foot pedals. And there's a particular kind of harmony in which you push down one pedal and you keep it down there. And the harmonies in what you're playing with your fingers changes, but that pedal note stays. And if we had an organ here, you would recognize instantly that's our pedal note. What's interesting about this sequence is that it's a descending sequence, and it gets closer and closer and closer and closer to that pedal note. And you, as you're listening, you say, what's going to happen if he gets there? And the answer is, he breaks it. He cracks that pedal and goes right through it. So listen again. Play again the pedal. And just play this. Play this. Hear that note? It keeps repeating. Getting closer to it. He breaks it and keeps going down. So when you start being attuned to this kind of musical motion, you just get so much more out of any piece of music. And you're going to find sequential motion everywhere. Think about any tune that you know. Mary Had a Little Lamb. I mean, any classical music piece, lots of rock and roll pieces. Today I was listening to the Jackson 5, ABC. ABC, do, re, mi, ABC, baby, you and me. Right? It's all about sequences. So, Harry, thank you for being my demonstrator. This Bach cello suite, which is about 20 minutes long, and I think we all have 20 minutes of good concentration left in us, has the following movements. And by the way, for those of you who are really here for the science and have always wondered in concerts why we talk about movements, in classical music, movements basically are, that means it's a chunk of music that tells is like a chapter of a book, and it happens in a particular pacing, a particular tempo, a particular groove, if you want. So in Bach's music, the grooves of the different movements are often dance forms from the era in which he was writing, Baroque dance forms. Not all of them, but some of them. So when I say the different movements, you'll note when Perry plays, he'll stop, there'll be a little pause, you don't need to clap, you could just be pensive. And then we'll go on to a new kind of a movement, and you'll feel the different grooves involved. So the movement that we've just been talking about is the prelude, in which the tone is set for the piece. Next is an allemande. An allemande, for those of you who speak French, is a German dance. Next is a courante, for those of you who speak French. Courante means running. So it's a running kind of a movement. Next is a sarabande, and a sarabande is an old French dance in 3 like a waltz. Waltzes are always in 3. Sarabands are always in 3. However, sarabands have 2 distinguishing characteristics. Number 1, they're slow. It's a slow dance. Number 2, the big step, because dance is about big steps and little steps. For those of you who know how to waltz, 1, 2, 3. Big, little, little. Saraband. Little, big, little. So a saraband is a slow dance in 3 with the big step in the middle. After the saraband, there are 2 minuets, and a minuet is like a waltz. There are 2 minuets, and you'll when you listen to this, you'll hear that we have minuet number 1, minuet number 2. We go back to minuet number 1 to finish. We make a little pattern, because this music's about patterns, and minuets are always done that way. And then the final movement is a jig, translated into English like a jig, a happy, fast dance. So, Perry, thank you very much. Scientists, thank you so much. Worf and Laura Heisler, thank you so much. It's been a great evening for me, totally on cloud 9. Can't wait to hear this Bach cello suite in key of D minor. Thank you.
Professor Karp. And thank you all for coming. And again, I want to invite you to leave some comments for us and give us your contact if you want to come to another one of these. And then I want to close by thanking the inspired and inspiring Dan Gravoy for arranging this evening. So if you could please help me thank Dan.